Lucky.
Well, yeah. No, well, somebody said it right. Tracy, thanks, Tracy.
Well, we're doing good. We have about 55 people joining us right now on Zoom, so that's great. Thank you for joining us. We will be live on Facebook momentarily. As soon as we're live, we can kick off the fun.
We are live.
Excellent. Thank you, James. Well, welcome to everybody. It is our last event for the prior to the holiday, so thank you. It's been fun doing 90 days of 90 events. Mark Roy is joining us from the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. He is our spirit specialist and does all of the buying for all the spirits. So anything in store is because of Mark. He made it happen. So make sure that you check out all his personal tasting notes on the single barrel buys and all the specialty spirits that we have. And tonight, our event is with Laphroaig, and we have Simon Brooking, who is the East Coast Ambassador, and we are honored to also have the Master Distiller, John Campbell, and they are in full reindeer attire, which is required, I guess, of Master Distillers these days. You have to do everything, it seems, at the distillery. I will give a little bit of information, then I'll let you take it away, gentlemen. So this is part of our 90 days around the world with the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets. As you know, we typically host two major events, a distiller showcase in November and a winter wine spectacular in January. Unfortunately, this year we are unable to host the live events, so we wanted to make sure we hosted these virtual live events. Thank you for joining. If you've joined us through Zoom and you registered through Eventbrite, you are registered for all the specials and discounts and coupons and promotions that we send. And if you visited the website 90daysaroundtheworld.com, you probably saw Scavify, which is our scavenger activity that we have going on. So Scavify will allow you to follow some trivia and interesting facts about all these Zoom meetings that we're having. It also allows you to collect points for additional discounts and specials at our liquor and wine outlets. So tonight we have a great event planned for you. These gentlemen are always excited. I know Simon was on recently with us and he gave us some great cheers and toasts to be able to use. Not that I can remember any of them when it comes time, but they were still excellent. And so hopefully we will have the same tonight. But gentlemen, Simon or John, take it away for us.
Thanks very much, Sean. Thanks very much, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a welcome to John Campbell to the party here tonight. Kind friends and companions, come join me in rhyme. Come lift up your voices in chorus with mine. Come lift up your voices, all grief to refrain. For we may or might never all meet here again. So here's a health to the company and one to my lass. Let's drink and be merry, all out of one glass. Let's drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may or might never all meet here again. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Campbell, live from the Laphroaig Distillery. John, welcome. How are things on Islay tonight?
Just the usual, Simon. 50 degrees and rainy, so it's all good. It's all good, and thanks so much. It's great to be virtual in New Hampshire, that's for sure. Nice to see you again, Mark, and good to see you again, Simon, my good friend, and to Sean. We just did an event recently as well, so yep. And to you guys, thanks to the folks out there. Yeah, no, it's good, and like thanks for all the comments, Tracy. I don't know which rain grade we are. You'll probably decide that by the end of the broadcast, and yep.
There might be a little bit of Vixen in us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's getting to that time in Scotland now. I don't know what it's like. You guys, what, use 5 hours behind? So it's just about 5:35 in the evening with you guys in the East Coast. So, but it's getting close to midnight here. So, what can I say?
Almost Christmas Eve. So
yeah.
let's talk about and enjoy some fine whiskies from the Laphroaig Distillery, shall we? Just so you know what we're going to be going through this evening, so you've got them in the orders. We'll be tasting the 10-year first. We'll be talking about it in between though, and then we've got the Laphroaig Select, and then after that, Laphroaig Quarter Cask, and then the 10-year Cask Strength. So if you've got all 4 of those, please join with us. If you've only got one, that's perfect. Or if you just have any whiskey, it is about celebration and coming together in community. So, John, I'm going to open up the slideshow that I've got here.
Okay.
And
Just while Simon's opening that up, just put the stuff in the chat, folks. We want some interaction. We're looking for comments. We're looking for where you're tasting from tonight. I saw somebody had 30 inches of snow. That's just like crazy. That's like nearly 3 feet of snow. Like that's probably like the amount of snow I'll see in my lifetime on Islay. So,
well,
like,
and how many meters is that, John? It's,
yeah,
it's about,
it's over 1, I think, Simon.
yeah, definitely. It's deep. They get
It's
a
deep.
lot of
It's
snow
deep.
up in the northeast.
Gilles
We don't get a
boasted.
lot of snow on Islay.
No.
And why is that, John?
Gulf Stream. We're on the Gulf Stream, right beside the coast, as you can see in your slide there. So the storms go up the east coast of the US, probably Florida, then they cross the Atlantic and hit into the bottom half of Islay in Ireland. And the bottom half of Islay is Laphroaig. But like, just like, I'm looking at comments here as well. It's just like, what did Jill say there? Wow,
Yeah.
there's so much snow everywhere.
Well, we get very rarely we get snow on Islay.
Nope, Jill's got more than 30 inches. So I don't know, what is that? It's like, that's a meter as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, that's a lot of snow. Nope. I won't see that in my lifetime, I don't think, on Islay.
And that's good for whiskey making for you. The
Yeah, no, and
climate.
it's what, absolutely, Simon. And it's one of the things that makes Islay whiskies different is the fact that we have a different climate. And yep, that's one of the locals there, you see.
So we're blending in tonight with the locals.
Yep. No, absolutely. Look at these horns. You've got like that's. You might think these are false. These are real. Can you hear that noise? solid ivory. So like, yep, we're just blending in. I've just had a shave tonight. That's the only difference. That's a hairy coo, and I'm usually a hairy man. So.
And I'll translate. Hairy coo means a hairy cow, or a Highland coo is a Highland cow. That's very typical. Very shaggy. Shaggy is in this time of the year, or just in the current circumstances. So we are at one with the hairy coo, but it's because of that climate. You get lots of storms. We get lots of storms on Islay, and we did this last night. I'm not sure how many are joining us tonight, but single malt Scotch has to be made in, John, can you get this?
Scotland.
Oh, very good. 1 point for you. Product of an individual distillery. What does that mean, John?
Well, it has to be made like on the one site. So to be a single malt Scotch whisky, you basically have to be made on the one distillation site. So if, for example, like our company has 2 distilleries on Islay. If you mixed Laphroaig and Bowmore together, it would now be a blended malt. So it has to be a product of one individual distillery.
So if it was Laphroaig and Bowmore, if we blended it, it would be Laphmore.
Would be, yeah, laugh more. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all need to laugh more at this time.
Oh yeah. So what else do we need to be made from malted barley? That's our only grain to be used.
Yes.
And the barley that is being used at Laphroaig these days, which
it's called Laureate. Yep, we've just moved on to Laureate, which is a new variety. It would have been Concerto beforehand, and so like, but again, if you're making like a blended whiskey, or if you're doing that, you would have wheat in there, and you would have corn as well.
So, John, what makes these particular strains of whiskey so good for making whiskey?
The strains of barley.
Yes.
Yep, I know. So, like, I guess the thing is that they are flexible, and that's the thing we're looking for more and more with the barley strains. We're looking for it to be flexible so that we can add. Well, certainly for Laphroaig, it's all about the peat. It's all about the peat flavour. So the more flavour it can take in, and then also the more efficient it is in extracting the sugar. So there's 2 things that Laphroaig would be looking for in a malted barley. We'd be looking for it to take in the maximum amount of peat flavour and to produce the maximum amount of sugar that we can turn into alcohol in the next stage in the mash house.
So, and copper stills, of course, distilled in copper stills, copper pot stills. We just recently replaced some of the pieces of the stills.
Yep, 3 bases at Laphroaig, and that's one of the things about Laphroaig, I guess, that because we distill so slowly, and well, the boil is slow. So if you can imagine a copper pot still in a distillery, it's basically just like a kettle, and so or a pot on a hob or a cooker. So you're just keeping it simmering away. Laphroaig simmers very, very slowly. Some distilleries do a fast boil, we do a slow boil. And so the bases wear out. So just the point where it's just bubbling away, that's where all the friction is. So that's the bit that wears out. So yeah, we've replaced the 3 bases in number 2, 3, and 4 spirit this year.
So, John, the next, it has to be aged at least 3 years in oak casks. What is it? Is it called whiskey prior to that 3 years?
Nope, it's just called new make spirit. And it's just basically what comes off the still until it's aged in an oak cask for 3 years. It's just, we would call it neutral. It's a neutral kind of spirit. So, yeah.
Right. So, so on its 364th day of the 3rd year at midnight, it then officially becomes whiskey.
Yep, it becomes single malt Scotch whiskey. Yep.
Excellent. And bottled at a percentage of 40% ABV.
Yep. Yep. 80 proof minimum. Again, that's just I guess the final rule for being a single malt Scotch whiskey. So, yep. But it's for Laphroaig, it's different in the US. It's 86 proof. So.
Yeah, different strength, and that brings out different character, different flavors. So in terms of the history, it was the Irish monks who discovered the distillation techniques during the time of the alchemist. They were experimenting with different natural products. Barley was naturally fermenting in the field. When you boiled that fermented barley, the liquid it produced created this rather ethereal effect. It has, in essence, brought you closer to your God. So when we talk about spirits in its original context, it is those religious origins. The Friar John Core was over on the eastern side of Scotland, the abbey there, where he requested 8 bowls of malt to make akavite. And it was 1505, the Guild of Surgeon Barbers were granted monopoly to produce ushgabeha as a tonic. So that's when it went from the religious to the commercial. And 1642, because of the English Civil War, they taxed whiskey production. And this drove folks mad, and it drove a lot of people out to the island. And that's part of the immigration, the movement of people from the mainland of Scotland to the islands that really had an effect for us on our distillery. Correct, John? The Johnston brothers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They basically came to the island in the late 1700s. They had been given basically land by the English for helping them during the rebellion. So they came to the island and set up their own farm, and basically with their spare barley in the winter, they made whiskey. So, yep. And there's a few questions here, Simon. So
yeah, absolutely.
Our neighbours in New Hampshire have some hairy coos as well, very beefy. Who's the neighbours? Is it the Canucks?
No, they literally have a neighbor who's got a hairy coo.
Oh, right. Sorry.
We do have a couple questions here. So one
Excellent.
of the questions which Michael answered was, are the oak casks new?
Yes. Yep. So basically what happens is we have another brand within the company, and generally 99% of the casks that Laphroaig use are ex-bourbon barrels, and so we have a bourbon brand in the company. It's called Maker's Mark, and it's hugely popular in the US, so you've probably heard of it. So we get ex-Maker's Mark casks And we've had that relationship for just over 25 years now. So we generally get them. It just suits us better because they air dry their casks over a Kentucky summer. They pull all the tannins and like the kind of heavier flavors out the cask during the maturation phase.
As opposed to an Islay summer, which is a Wednesday in July.
Yeah, just that one day, Simon. Yeah, that's when we hold the Portellen Sports.
Yeah.
So it just any Wednesday. It could be any Wednesday, but it's just like that one good day of the year.
That's
when
summer.
When it gets above 60 degrees.
Excellent. We're really selling Islay, John. We're doing wonders here.
Well, I tell you what, if it's the other side of that is it's below 60 most of the year. It's never below 50, but it's always never above 60. It's perfect whiskey drinking weather. So come to Ireland, drink whiskey.
Let's do that. Let's get to it. I just mentioned, Scotland. You were talking about Kentucky with Maker's Mark, and we are smaller than the state of Kentucky, but there are the western islands of Scotland produce some pretty amazing whiskies. The largest islands you'd have Skye. That's where you get the likes of Talisker, or on Mull. There's distilleries on Mull. Also the Isle of Jura, which is just north of Islay itself, and then Islay, but has the highest concentration of distilleries. So those are 4 key whiskey producing islands on the west coast of Scotland. John, where are you from?
Islay.
You're from the island.
I'm from Portellen, so like about a mile and a half south of Laphroaig. So, yeah, yep, that's me just down about the bottom of the arrow where the is. That'll be me. So that's probably why you can't understand me right now, because I'm speaking funny, because I'm from the south of the island. But yeah, and there's folk here saying about Loon as well. So I've been in Loon Mountain twice, I think, over the last 10 or 15 years. Not as often as I'd want to be as well, but it's somewhere you are every year as well. So it's almost, it's probably not actually, but we can't be far away from the same kind of, I guess, the same horizontal. Loon Mountain can't be far away from Laphroaig.
Latitude. Islay's on the same.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Islay's on the same latitude as Moscow, actually. So it's a little bit.
Oh dear. Okay. Well,
but the best way to understand your accent there, John, is with a little bit of whiskey. So I'm gonna jump us ahead to tasting some of these whiskeys. We were talking about the pot stills here. John, you want to talk about the angle, the top of the stills there, and what makes them unique at Laphroaig? And I'm going to click ahead to get to our punch in the mouth in your first sip. But tell folks a little bit about the angles of the stills.
Yeah. So one of the things, I guess, if you can remember that photo, is the line arms go up the way at Laphroaig, and the line arm is the bit that connects the still at the top there, the neck, up to the condenser, which is at the back. Thank you very much, Simon. Yeah. So they are actually, they're not horizontal, they're kind of slightly vertical. And what that does, because we have a slow boil in the stills at Laphroaig, we're not producing the vapour as fast as most distilleries in the Scotch whisky industry. So what that does, and because the line arm's going up the way, all the solids don't get pushed over into the new spirit. So what you do actually get with a Laphroaig new spirit is a very flavourful spirit, but it's actually very light bodied. There's not much oil. There's not much kind of the heavy kind of oils and kind of flavours drop back and down into the still. What we also do get is a lot of copper contact, because as you can imagine, because it's a slow boil, there's a lot of copper contact. It's called reflux. And so the reflux plays a heavy part in the Laphroaig flavour as well. So in two ways, the main reason is that, and the main reason why we use copper stills is that the spirit can keep changing when we put it into the maturation for the long sleep, I guess. So the second reason is we get sulfides coming off the still, so sulfur compounds. And what happens is you won't get that. Probably you probably will actually in the first one, because the 10-year-old, you do get a bit of fruitiness at 86 proof, but that's what it gives. And the longer you leave Laphroaig, the more these sulfites, I guess, oxidize and then will turn into fruity flavors. And if you've ever tasted a Laphroaig 18 or a Laphroaig 25, that's where the sulfites kind of really transform and produce these lovely fruity flavors coming through.
John, we're going to start with the 10-year. So
Yes.
I would love for you to take folks through a tasting of the #1 selling Islay single malt.
Okay, so like I have some 10-year here in my glass, and I don't know, I mean, have you folks been to Laphroaig? Been to Islay? Been to the south of the island? Well, if you have, this is, I don't know, it's like they talk about terroir and wine and the kind of the flavour of the region. To me, Laphroaig 10 is absolutely the flavour of the south of Islay. So when you arrive either at the port or at the airport and you drive down to the south, you're driving through peat beds. So straight away you're thinking, well, okay, right, there's lots of peat beds here. We get down to the coast, Laphroaig is situated right beside the sea. So you're going to get that kind of maritime influence. The whiskey is maturing right beside the sea, and that sea is the Atlantic Ocean. So especially at this time of year, if we're kind of looking out the windows just kind of this way, you'll find that there's a lot of kind of sea salt in the atmosphere, in the air. So it can't help, because of this kind of higher temperature on the island, because of the Gulf Stream, it kind of breathes in, the casks are breathing in and breathing out this flavour. So at the end of 10 years, this is the way it kind of has to be. If you know the process at the distillery, we produce our own malted barley in the floor maltings. We'll peat that with the peat that we'll kind of harvest from the island as well, just between the golf course and the airport. So kind of the bottom south of the island still. And so we'll flavour that, we'll then ferment it, and with just basically a baker's yeast to ferment that, and we'll make a warm smoky beer. We'll distill it twice through the stills. We'll put it into a maker's mark barrel and we'll mature it on the island. We'll put it to sleep for 10 years, and this is the product. So everything I've just said, I'll hope you smell in this glass. So first thing you do get a bit of that kind of vanilla sweetness, maybe some fruit coming through, and especially at 86 proof, you get much more fruit than I'll be getting at 80 proof in my glass here. So you get that initially, and then it's kind of like, you have to keep like peeling the layers back. It's just like, it's like an onion, I would say, like nosing a single malt Scotch whisky. You get one layer, you put it to the back of your mind, you go back in, you get another layer, you get the depth of the spirit. And for me, this is the thing that makes Laphroaig unique within single malt Scotch whiskies. Yes, it's peaty, yes, it's fruity, but when you push these layers back, you just get more and more and more. So in this one, you should get kind of high, kind of floral aromatics coming through. You should get saltiness. You should get a slight feeling of dry as well, just a cold feeling at the back of your nose. So, but the more you can breathe in, the more it fills your nose. It just feels like your nose has been filled with flavour, and that's, to me, that's the amazing thing about Laphroaig. So,
and nosing the whiskey is as much a part of the experience as tasting the whiskey.
No, absolutely. And so to me, especially with a 10-year-old, and especially if I may be able to have friends round again. The aromatics of this are the thing that fills the room, and especially with the Laphroaig, it's one of the things I will absolutely do the most. I'll smell it, keep smelling it, just keep getting used to it, and just
You know what
trying to
that,
dig.
you know that is, John? It's you being a stingy Scot. You don't want to drink it yet.
Oh no, I want to drink it. I'm feeling thirsty. But like, I just want to enjoy and savor this, because I guess it's just the thing about Laphroaig. It's that depth and that kind of just that layers of flavour coming through. So anyway, now I'm thirsty, so we should taste. So we should do a wee toast, because we like to toast in Scotland, and I guess I'm going to go with. You've seen a hairy coo there now, so I'm going to start with a silly one, and they're not probably going to get any better. So you've seen the hairy coo, okay? And there's these two guys sitting in their bar and their decking at New Year's Eve, and New Year's a big thing in Scotland. We celebrate it hard and long, just like the Laphroaig 10. So they're thinking of these toasts, and this cow walks up onto the top of the hill, the crest of the hill, and the moon's been in the background, and it walks down the other side. And one of the guys says, "Oh, hey, I've got a toast." And he goes, "Okay, give me it." And he goes, "On yonder hill, there stood a coo. It's not there now. It must have moved." Cheers.
Cheers. Keep it simple. It's Islay humor.
I think we can appreciate that in New Hampshire. We do have a couple questions I'll toss you away.
Great, yes, and then we've also got some trivia questions, so let's jump into those as well. Thank you,
We
Sean.
do. So what is the water source for Laphroaig?
So the water source is ultimately this. We collect rainwater, and we'll collect it. Basically, we have a catchment area up to the north of the distillery, about 800 hectares. That's probably metric, Simon, so you can translate that into US language. And the rainwater we'll collect, it's basically a big peat bog. The water runs through this peat bog, and the peat bog filters the water, and it makes lovely, soft, kind of clean water. We'll collect that in the Kilbride Reservoir, and we'll store just over 5 million gallons in the Kilbride Reservoir. From there, it'll come down to the distillery two ways. We pipe it straight into the mash house, and then the overflow goes into the still house, to the cooling system, the still house. It's basically rainwater. So I guess, as long as it keeps raining, we'll be okay making Laphroaig whiskey.
So when you come over to visit and it's raining, that's a good thing. That's just Scotch whiskey waiting to be made.
Yes, tomorrow's whiskey, absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Okay.
One other question from Andy on Zoom is about the peat. He mentions that the peat on the island must be much different in aroma and characteristics than the mainland. And he wants to see if you can give him a little bit more information for the peat appreciators out there.
Yep, no, absolutely. So basically, the geology of the island is the bottom half of the island came out to sea 400 million years ago. So it's seaweed based at the bottom half of the island. The top half of the island has different kind of mosses and grasses on it that are unique to Islay as well. So you've got a different base and you've got a different top that's permeating down into the peat. And we've just done a huge study on peat at Laphroaig, and we own quite a lot of land, as I said, in between the golf course and the airport. And we've just kind of done a study on depth, on how many years supply we have, what we need to do to kind of sustain that supply, and just how we can manage all these things as well. So,
John, I think I've got some photos of the peat fields a little bit later on as well.
Yeah, so we can talk about that, but I guess the one thing straight away is we do not need to worry about supplies of peat. We've just found out through the depth and the volume that we have, we reckon we'll have about another 2,500 years worth of peat to keep us going. So yeah, it's still important. Like, we're Scottish and we're thrifty. We're born with short arms and deep pockets. So we still want to make it last as long as we can. And so we are doing regeneration projects as well. But like, yeah, I was really surprised to know we have like a couple of thousand years. So that's pretty cool. But yes, something we won't mismanage as well.
Nice.
So I hope folks have been enjoying the 10-year. This is our standard bottling at 43%. The other one that we'll be discussing this evening is 10-year cask strength. If you ever have any questions when you're at the store, at your New Hampshire liquor stores there, the staff is always very helpful, they're educating, they're there to help you, but also read the bottles themselves, the labels, because there's a lot of great information on the packaging. You'll notice this tells you Laphoraig. Of course, that's the name of the distillery. What does Laphoraig mean, John?
It means the hollow by the bay. Simple folk, Simon.
Hollow by the bay. So the 10, and then Islay single malt means, of course, it has to be made on Islay. Single malt.
What does Islay mean, Simon?
Islay means island.
Yep, it's the island of Ireland. Again, simple folks. We don't beat about the bush here.
So 10 years, age 10 years. So all of it is only 10 years old?
The age of the youngest whiskey is 10 years old.
So we're marrying different casks to maintain your flavor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things we're trying to do with this one is the main thing with 10-year-old, because this is the heart of Laphoraig, it's the main brand, is trying to be so consistent time after time after time. So we will marry from different warehouses all around the site. We will mix different casks together from there. We'll also keep 20% in the vat from the previous bottling, the Solera process, if you know the sherry industry. And so we're always trying to keep the flavour profile the same with 10-year-old. And this is the one that will change the most, though, if you do, because a question we do get asked a lot as well, do you add water, do you not add water? Probably 10-year-old is the one that will change the most if you do or if you don't add water.
Great.
And so you've got a secret to how you do it, because your Scottish roots are strong, Simon.
Well, we'll show that. We'll show that on our next whiskey, definitely.
Okay.
Also, the 1815 stands out rather prominently on the packaging. Why is that?
That's the year that we decided to pay the back taxes to. So it's the legal age of the distillery. So
it was established 1815, even though legally the Excise Act to produce whiskey was 1823. So you guys, the Johnston brothers, got a little bit of a head start. They were entrepreneurs, those Johnston brothers.
Yeah, and they were probably going a lot longer before that. And I think if you look, especially if you look at the three distilleries in the south of Islay, two are like, we've got Laphroaig, we've got Lagavulin and Arbeg, two are 1815, one's 1816. I think they just decided how much back taxes they were going to pay, and that would be that.
And what's the area down there in the south called?
It's Kildalton Parish, it's called.
Kildalton Parish, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're, there we go.
There we go.
So, we've got some trivia questions. Yeah, John, did you get them?
Probably, yep.
So we're gonna ask some of the ones that we've already given them the clues for. So let's go to number 3 on the trivia questions there. Laphoraig uses barrels from which Kentucky distillery? And this is for a Glencairn glass.
Wow. Look how fast that is. Glass. That was so fast. Look at the amount of people have answered that so quickly, Simon.
Well, I discovered from my last session that they're very smart, entrepreneurial folks who listen in and watch this session, and they're very sharp-witted. So, do we have a winner, Sean?
We do. Our winner is McDonough. He answered the question correct.
McDonough. I recognize McDonough from the other night.
He was on with us, yes.
Good for you, McDonough.
Wow, that was so fast. That was just instant. That's amazing.
So here's the next one. What is the name of the angled copper pipe that extends off the top of the pot still leading to the condensers?
Oh, wow. Andy got it straight away.
Well, we have a judge who is, because we're on two different
All right, okay.
channels, so we have a judge who's calling out who actually was the fastest in.
But you're quick, John, because it was Andy Hearthcock. You answered it correctly. It's the line arm.
That answer is the line arm.
Congratulations. No, congratulations to everyone. That's just like unbelievably fast.
Okay, so since we're looking at this photo here, our third trivia question: what does Laphoraig mean?
Somebody had that ready to go there.
Is there a scandal brewing? Somebody got the answers early?
I think they're typing the answers in and then just pressing send as soon as we do that.
We do voting different here in the United States. You have
to. Allegedly.
Jill Grodin has the answer correct. So congratulations, Jill.
Congratulations, Jill. Got yourself a little.
Speaking to Rudy Giuliani, I think.
And the answer was beautiful hollow by the Broad Bay. So.
And here we are at the Hollow by the Broad Bay, a natural harbor, perfect for the Johnson brothers when they were farming as well as making their whiskey, to be able to move product off the island. John, where are you sitting right now?
So like, I would usually be there, Simon. Yep, but I'm just up a bit. Yep. That's where I am right now. And if you go to the right, actually, just behind these trees, behind the trees, that's where the farm was. So just over there is the farm that started Laphroaig.
So John, what is that building there? Are you in an office?
That's my house.
You've got one hell of a commute, John.
It's a really tough commute to work in the morning. What can I say?
And
that flying seaweed in January, you got to watch out for that.
Well, you just catch it in the tube, right?
No, there's 26 of us in the village, so
this is the village right here on the left side. This is the village
metropolis that is Laphroaig. Yep.
So one of the whiskeys we'll be tasting a little bit later is Laphroaig Quarter Cask, and there's a difference in the warehouses in the microclimates at Laphroaig. These warehouses that you see here are what we call our dunnage warehouses, earthen floors. They're only racked 3 high, right on the sea, right on the coast. The whiskey's aging, but up in the top left here, you also see more warehouses, and these are the road warehouses. They are, but there is a difference in the climate between these warehouses. John, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, and just even the construction of the buildings will play a huge part in the maturation atmosphere. So if you go down beside the sea here again, the walls are 3 foot thick in these buildings. These warehouses were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So the climate doesn't change that much inside them. If you go up the road, the kind of more modern buildings, they are thinner walls. They're kind of, I guess, they'd be insulated buildings, but the temperature profile fluctuates a lot more in these buildings. So when we go on to 10-year-old cask strength, we will be able to talk about that probably in a lot more detail, because we do take, to get different strengths and different flavors in 10-year-old cask strength, we take from different warehouses and different heights in the warehouse as well to produce different flavors.
And quarter cask, a lot of the quarter cask that's aged at Laphroaig is aged up in these warehouses.
Yeah, we'll store them in the bottom floors, usually the bottom 3s. We would call them racks or rows in the warehouse. So usually always the bottom 3 for them, because it's a very quick maturation, but you got a different temperature profile at the bottom of the warehouse too.
And John, what kind of casks do you have on site from the various different wine finish, fortified wine type casks?
Very, very little, Simon. We will do small amounts of sherry. We will do small amounts of it's 99% ex-bourbon. We will do experiments. Absolutely, we will do experiments, and we'll do different maybe sherry casks for carcasses. For somebody was asking about triple wood there earlier, I think, as well. So we'll go through 3 casks for triple wood. Yeah. And
John,
so
you
Tracy,
mentioned
that's the one good day of the year, Tracy, in July. We always try and capture it every year. So
John, you mentioned
that's the other 364 days there, Simon, isn't it?
Yeah, you mentioned a Gaelic name there, Carchas, which some of our customers may know, but some may not. Can you briefly explain Carchas, its origins?
Yeah, so Carchas is a limited bottling we will do once a year for our friends Laphroaig. So if you're a friends Laphroaig, thanks very much. And hopefully you'll get over to cut your grass soon, because, well, the grass at the end of the road's getting long now, so we're needing, and your neighbours are complaining, so we need you over here to cut the grass. But Friends Laphroaig, it's a club we started in 1994. You get a square foot of land on the island, and we will also produce bottling. This cartridge. Can you see that okay, Simon?
Yeah.
So it's a port and wine cask. For this year, it'll be different every year. It's a somewhat limited bottling. There'll be about 33,000 bottles produced for the whole planet. And we will just do something slightly different, just something a bit unique, just to try and bring a bit of innovation to the brand as well.
Yeah, and the New Hampshire liquor stores have been very supportive of the Carchas brand, but it is a little bit more limited. So you just need to keep an eye out for it, because as John was saying, it's a one-off. And once it's gone, it's gone. There won't be another bottling until a new different type the next year.
Yeah, and it's usually, it'll be different every single year. So see if you can go back, Simon, to the picture of the bay. Suzanne is asking, where is the land? So like, if you go up to the top, that's exactly where your land is, Suzanne. Just at the end of the road. That's where all the plots are. So that's where we've got 1 million square foot lined up there. And we've just about got 1 million Friends Laphroaig all around the world. So we get about 25 to 30,000 Friends Laphroaig visiting every year. And hopefully that'll continue next year as well.
So I'm looking to get us to our next whiskey, which is Select. So
Okay.
Well, we should talk about the peat, because you were talking about it before. These are the peat beds that we use, that we cut from. We cut 18-inch vertical bricks. That section that you see there is the section that's perfect for us at Laphroaig. If you cut lower, below the gentleman's hand, that's a hotter fire, and that's what the locals will use to heat their homes and cook with. But we're going to use that 18 inches there, and because it's a smokier fire, and it's got more organics in it, so it's going to add lovely flavors to it. There's bog cotton, bog myrtle on the island, and sphagnum moss, which is people talk about the medicinal quality to the whiskeys. Some of that comes from the sphagnum moss, but also from the fact that these bogs that you see on the island of Islay are fairly exposed to the sea always, because Islay is a pretty flat island. So it's not, as we were saying earlier, it's not snow, it's the wind during the winter and the storms that brew up that really make it difficult to grow barley on the island, make it difficult to live on the island. It's the island gets shut down very often during the height of the winter. For what's the longest you have been locked in, John, in the winter?
Probably the longest is about a week, where we just had no ferry supply or anything, I guess, in my lifetime. So But it's just very common to get storms coming through, and some of the peat beds at Laphroaig are actually below sea level, just because of the way the kind of land comes in. So yeah,
So-
it's just different. It's kind of what I'm used to, I suppose. So that's probably why we drink strong flavoured whiskies, to get us through January and February.
And folks out there, I'm trying to get us through to the next slide where we actually drink whiskey again. So, because I'm getting parched to listening to all this. But the barley, as you had mentioned, as we mentioned in the very beginning, the malted barley is really one of the key components, obviously, to make single malt Scotch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's just huge. This is the germination stage here. And basically what we're trying to do at this point is create as much sugar inside the corn as possible. So the job is basically, there's three parts to malting barley.
And John, when you say corn, you mean the actual kernel, not corn as in the grain, a corn of barley.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Not to confuse folks.
Oh yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, it's Scottish corn. So yeah, we're trying to grow not maize. That's right, Amy. So we're just trying to get as much of the kind of basically starches producing enzymes, so that when we add hot water in the next stage, they turn into soluble starches or sugars. So,
and what's that called?
Germination.
And the next step after that with the soluble sugars, the liquid.
Oh, mashing.
And
so
what do you produce during mashing?
It's basically, if you've ever made a pot of tea, it's kind of similar. So it's like a big tea bag. So we put all the malt barley, we'll grind it up, and we basically put water through it to flush the sugars and flavours out. And we'll do that 3 flushes of the wort, Mark. So
what's that again? That's wort.
Wort, yep. Okay. So Mark's basically said wort. So yes, it is. It's wort is the sugary liquid will flush out of the grain. When we add the yeast and ferment it, it becomes wash. Okay, so we basically make it, once it becomes a strong beer solution, it'll become wash. So
all single malt Scotch is distilled beer, basically.
Yes.
But
we make a beer first before we make whiskey.
Right. And we make a very smoky beer.
Yes. Smoky, yeasty. And so if you ever drank there's an action shot, Simon. Yeah, that's the one day of the year I work hard too. So if you ever drank too much, that's because it has such a high yeast concentrate. And a lot of folk back in the day would lose their job at Laphroaig because they were drinking too much wash and too much of the liquid. You would find two things. They would either break out because the high yeast concentrate, or it was a laxative, so you could find them in the toilet.
All right.
Yep.
So there's the drying of the peat. We then grind it down. We do mashing, fermentation, and then distillation, and then aging in the different types of barrels, which is going to take us to our next whiskey, because we're going to use a combination of bourbon barrels, either in the 200-liter size or the quarter cask size, which is the 125 liter, and we'll be talking about that shortly. And then the sherry butts are 500 liters, and then a hogshead at 250 liters. So these different sizes and the different types of wood and different types of spirit that have been holding these whiskeys, these spirits, are going to impact the flavor of the whiskeys as we put them in for a minimum of, 3 years, correct? So that takes us to our next whiskey, Laphroaig Select. So this doesn't have an age statement. There's no year on this one. This is more, this is closer to the way our whiskey men back in the 19th century were creating whiskies. They weren't waiting 10 years to make it. They were bottling different casks to create different flavors. And that's what we've done with this whiskey, Laphroaig Select. John, you want to chat about Select?
Yeah, no, and I think, see if you can go back 2 slides, Simon, and just look at the casks again. Yeah, so Laphroaig Select is a mixture of 3 of these different types of casks. So if you go to the hogshead at the back there, in Select, it was friends of Laphroaig who chose this winning recipe, and Simon was involved in creating the recipe for Select. So we sat down, we created 6 recipes, and over the summer of 2013, we let the friends of Laphroaig come to the island. They tasted the recipes at the visitor centre on the island, and then they chose, I guess, the winning recipe. So in the recipe, if you go to the hogsheads at the back, there's 2 different types of sherry matured Laphroaig in this. So there's Pedro Jimenez sherry and Oloroso sherry matured Laphroaig into the Select kind of marriage, I guess. If you go to quarter cask on the left there, we will use fully matured in quarter cask. So not like quarter cask where it's matured in bourbon and then quarter cask, so it's double matured. This is fully matured in quarter cask. And then if you go to the front there, the bourbon barrels, so we use ex-Maker's Mark, as so many of you have said already, which is amazing. But then we've used virgin American oak as well in Select, and I think it's a very strong flavour in Select. So basically, we get casks that would have been going to Maker's Mark, dried over a Kentucky summer, and we've sent them to Islay, and we've matured Laphroaig in them. So 5 different styles of Laphroaig matured whiskey married together at bottling. So it's, I guess it's concurrent maturation and all married together at bottling. So it's a slightly complicated recipe, all different ages of casks as well. The youngest will be 5-year-old, and that's the virgin American oak. Okay, and then we will have older ones. I think the Oloroso sherry is the oldest one in Select as well. So we'll marry these all together, basically because there's 5 different styles of Laphroaig matured whiskey married together. What you'll find with Select is that you'll maybe find, oh, it's not so peaty. It's not like a peaty slap in the face like the 10-year-old was. So it's kind of more gentle, it's more subtle. It's probably a more malleable Laphroaig. So when you I know a lot of bartenders like this one for mixing for cocktails, lots of different types of cocktails as well. So when you nose this one, there's the 2 flavours that I really get in my nose with this one. I get the PX sherry up front. Just that PX is such a viscous liquid that it just brings a kind of, it just brings a presence to a liquid. So you get that up front, and then you get the virgin American oak coming through. So you get that kind of vanilla spice feeling. And it's almost kind of like sappy as well. So is that right? So sappy is with, like, if you broke a twig, you would get like sap. Yep, that translates, Simon.
Oh yes, we all.
Yep.
Know. Yep.
So like I get these flavors, the 2 things coming through in Select the most. Now it's a bit more subtle. So again, it's 80 proof as well, so slightly lower in alcohol. I guess the reason why it says sherry forwards that PX bit. So I think it's your turn for a toast, Simon.
Okay, so here's the toast. To the cause that needs assistance, to the wrongs that need resistance, to the future in the distance, to the good we all can do. Slange.
Slange.
we do have a couple questions. I'll toss you away. So Barry would like to know what liquid was in the hogshead and quarter casks before the Laphroaig spirit.
No, nothing. We will season the European oak in Spain, and it'll be 2 years seasoned with Oloroso or Pedro Jimenez sherry. So it'll be fully matured in these casks.
And the quarter cask would have had bourbon in them. They're a cut down barrel.
Yeah.
So it would have been a new used bourbon, Maker's Mark bourbon barrel cut down to the 125 litre size.
Yeah, so when we get the cask sent over from Maker's Mark, we'll send the odd container ship up to a cooperage called Speyside Cooperage. And basically there's 42 staves in a bourbon barrel. They'll cut them down to 28. And that's roughly about 30 gallon. And that's right, isn't it, Simon, US terms?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so 125 litres. So basically we'll get 3 quarter casks made out of 2 barrels. So, and then they'll basically turn down the hoops, turn down the ends of the cask, put in the 28 staves, put on the new hoops, and send them to Islay for us to use as quarter casks.
Yeah, one of the questions related to the barrels is they want to know, before you selected the Maker's Mark barrel, did you sample any other American bourbon barrels?
Yes, no, we did. We were looking to try and get a much more consistent cask policy in the mid-90s. And we did try other ones. We still do use 1% of other barrels as well, just because we'll just use Jim Beam sometimes as well. But we like Maker's Mark because of basically they take all the tannins out of the oak. So that's the main reason. You don't get you get a bit of dryness with Laphroaig, but not too much. So that's the main reason why we like Maker's Mark.
And it's also the economics of it was the fact that Maker's Mark and Laphroaig were under the same parent company. And that a lot of times that's what it comes down to. So it was a good partnership, and it was a great way again to save a few pennies.
And one last question is why the quarter cask, and are the barrels charred?
Yeah, so I'll come in on this. These are the quarter casks that you see right here. So we decided to innovate through tradition. The quarter casks are the size 125 liters that 2 men could pick one of them up and put it onto the side of a pack horse and bring to market. So by going to use these smaller casks, in theory, you get more surface contact wood to whiskey. So you're getting a higher concentration of the effects of the wood on this. And this was for the quarter cask, that's 13 years now. I think we're almost at 14 years. It's our second biggest seller, and it has been a huge favorite for us in the US. And a lot of it we think has to do with the fact that they're 2 different sized bourbon barrels, that you're getting a real punch of the vanilla notes, the caramel. So a lot of bourbon drinkers really can identify with the quarter cask.
Would you like to do a few more trivia, Simon?
Yes. Before we taste the quarter cask, let's do a few more trivia, shall we? How many distilleries are currently in operation in the Kildalton parish on Islay? And name them. How many distilleries are currently in operation in the Kildalton parish on Islay? And name them.
Getting a lot of numbers, not necessarily a lot of names.
No, Barry got it there, I think.
We've got one attempting the names.
Because John said them, of course, we didn't have them spelled out. We won't take off for spelling on this one.
So we have somebody that did very well. So Peter Tuzanon said 3, and he's our.
So
it appears James is awarding him the winner. So Peter Tuzanon.
Peter, excellent. You got the 3. 3 is the correct number of the Kildalton parish, And the distilleries are, of course, number one, Laphroaig, and then half a mile down the road, you've got Lagavulin, and about another mile at the end of the road, you've got Ardbeg. So Laphroaig, Lagavulin, and Ardbeg take up the southern portion of the island of Islay, known as the Cadalton Parish. Another question. Name 3 of the largest whiskey islands in the Western Isles. Name 3 of the largest whiskey islands in the Western Isles.
These people are very attentive. We have several answers coming in this one.
Wow. Gwen Orkney.
Well, that's technically not Western, but...
Oh, I suppose it isn't.
It's Western to us. All of them are Western to us. They go far enough around the world, they become Western to us. Let's see what James says for a winner. You're making these tough tonight, Simon.
Well, I just thought they were so easy the night before. So make them a little tougher. Make them... They got to work for that class.
Mary Watts answered our question correct, so I'll let you share it, Simon.
Who wins between
Mary?
Yes, Mary.
Mary. So yes, the technically 3 of 4 that we're looking for. Of course, number 1 would be Islay.
Yep.
Our next door neighbor is Jura. Then we've got Mull and Skye. Those are really the 4 largest islands, whiskey-making islands on the Western Isles.
And impressively enough, Mary gave us all 4, just so you know.
Excellent. Congratulations, Mary. Extra points for you.
Yep.
So let's drink to Mary. All right.
Yep. And yeah.
Mary, the wild child. And I call it that because when you look at the way the whiskeys move in your mouth, one of the things I always suggest is I don't like talking about the tasting notes too much because a lot of people will get different flavors and different aromatics, different noses. But one of the things to explore is how the whiskey moves in your mouth, how the spirit moves you, and how you move in the spirit. So the 10-year tends to kind of roll right up through the middle, big and bold. And this one dances about mischievously. It's a wild child, this one. This is where we've started off in the 200-liter bourbon barrels, 5 to 11 years, when we're going to marry those and then put it into the smaller quarter cask that we just were talking about. So here's a toast. Can I do this one, John?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Sounds like you're poised.
Yeah, here we go. Here's to fighting, cheating, stealing, and drinking. If you fight, may you fight alongside my brother. If you cheat, may you cheat death. If you steal, may you steal another's heart. And if you drink, may you drink with me. Cheers.
Ange.
And while you're tasting that, I'm going to share the Scavify code for tonight for everybody that's part of our passport program and enjoying the 90 days with us. The code word that you'll look for in Scavify is 200 years. That is the code you'll be looking for in the app. It is 200 years. So thank you for joining us. We still have some tasting to go. Simon, how would you like to continue?
Hey, let's ask another question. Here we go. What is the Gaelic name of the Laphroaig yearly bottling celebrating friendship? And we're going to ask for correct spelling. I'm not sure if we're going to get it, but
Paul. Scott. Yep. Judas. Wow.
So it looks like Barry Hall gave us the correct spelling and name.
Carchus. A lot of people have a hard time pronouncing it. Just think it's a gorgeous Carchus, or I get in a car chase for Carchus. But actually, John, where did the name come from?
It came from my gran. Basically, we started off in 2003 with a single cask bottling. And then by 2007, we decided, we're going to have to do something a bit different. And we thought, we'll create a friendship bottling for the Friends of Laphroaig. So I went over to my gran and asked her what would be a description for friendship in Gaelic, and she said Carchus. So my gran came up with a name for the annual release to the Friends of Laphroaig.
And do we know what we're doing? I'm flashing here.
Hey, Simon.
It's turning into the midnight show.
Yep.
It's
Listen,
midnight for John.
it is in Islay, but I'm not sure it is in New York. It's always midnight in New York, isn't it?
So we just tasted the Laphroaig quarter cask. I'm avoiding the question. I hope you're enjoying that one. That one's balled at 48%. Much big puff of sweetness in the very beginning, and then it goes dry, and then your salivary glands start pumping out along the side of your cheeks there, just screaming out, "Send more whiskey." This really is a delicious Laphroaig, and all of these whiskeys are coming off the still exactly the same, but timing the barrel and different types of barrels that we use are going to give you the different flavors and the different influences on our whiskeys. I think it's time for another question here, Sean.
Go for it.
Okay. In what stage of production is wort produced? Is it mashing, fermentation, or distillation? In what stage of production is wort produced? Mashing, fermentation, or distillation?
Okay, James will choose a winner. We have quite a few repeat winners tonight too. So just to remind everybody, we're trying to give everybody an opportunity to win. So we'll choose a new winner. And while we get that answer, we got a question which I think you'll be excited to answer, Simon and John, because you both mentioned Loon. But the question is, will Laphroaig be presenting again at the Highland Games in the future?
We are planning and hoping for it. We love that event. It's one of the highlights of the year for us, and it's always a treat whenever we can get John to come over. It's a beautiful time of the year to be up north. But that's all dependent on the safety and health of everybody involved, and it'll be decided between Laphroaig and the New Hampshire Highland Games committee.
Yep.
So yes, we would love to be there as soon as it's safe enough to do it.
We look forward to welcoming you back when it is safe. Our answer tonight, that was correct, was from Mark Devlin. So he got the answer of mashing.
Mashing. That's where we make the wort, just preparing to make our strong beer, and before we go into distillation. All right, another question here. Where are we here? Oh yes, since we have this right here, what two types of casks are used for Laphroaig quarter cask? And what we're looking for here are the size of the barrels. What two sizes of casks? How many liters for each barrel?
Okay,
This might be a tough one.
Oh, they're all getting it right again, Simon.
So our winner tonight is David Kenny.
David Kenny guessed the correct, which is 200-liter bourbon and then 125-liter bourbon casks.
Correct.
That is what makes up the quarter cask. Oh, hey, it's time for us to sing. We got to sing. We're not done yet. We've got one more whiskey coming, but everybody put your singing hats on, join us. And John, we ready? Here we go. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
The taste of Laphroaig will never fool.
It's a garbage can on fire, the smell of burning
tires. It reminds me of my home.
That's what we like to call the Islay echo.
You're so nice. For somebody that can't sing, it's just like you're just like.
Well, we're having fun with Laphroaig. We're enjoying the evening, and that's what it's all about, enjoying yourself. You enjoy the whiskey the way you like it. That's the most important thing. A lot of people tend to get a little bit intimidated by our whiskeys. But look at John Campbell. Who's going to be intimidated by him? He's got horns, for God's sake.
Yep.
This has got horns. And speaking of horns.
Yep.
Our last whiskey of the evening, 10-year cask strength. Hey, John, hold the tube up and show the people the bottle in the waves. On the front of the tube there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look, take a look very closely. Can you find the bottle floating in the sea? Too close, John. Oh, no, that's it. Oh, you're giving it away. So just a little, it's kind of like the FedEx arrow, you know? Anyway, a little
There you
subliminal.
go.
Tell us about the 10-year cast strength.
Okay, so this year's 10-year-old cast strength, as you can see, it's 120 proof. So it's come from the top of one of the warehouses, and it's warehouse 11. So
Which
what you
is
will
interesting to
find,
note.
sorry?
You get a higher strength at the higher elevation.
Yeah, so like
get
up
that
at the
in
top of the
Kentucky.
warehouse, yeah, because you have a higher temperature profile, you don't lose alcohol, you lose volume in the cask. You lose the water. When you're down at the bottom of the warehouse, you lose alcohol, you don't lose the water. So it's kind of slightly different. So with this one here, I guess the first thing you see, look at that colour. Because it's up at the top of the warehouse, it's driving in and out the wood for 10 summers. So what you're going to get a much, just because it's warmer, the wood opens up, the whiskey drives in deeper, and it pulls out more colour. So it's going to get much more of the kind of, I guess, the cask influence. But you won't lose alcohol because it's up at the top. You're losing the water in the cask. So what happens with this one? This one's 120 proof. One of the things about Laphroaig, you're going to taste all of the things we've just talked about before. You're going to taste peat. You're going to get sweet. You're going to get fruit. You're just going to get so many different things with this one. The thing I love about batch 12 is the balance. So one of the things we should do, this is 120 proof. So when we're tasting this one, we should pour it into the middle of the tongue, almost give it as a good friend of ours would do, give it a Kentucky chew. So give it a good swirl, give it a good chew, and then release and just savor that flavor. So all the alcohol centers at the front of the mouth. So if we miss them, pour it into the middle of the tongue and then just savor. You'll find you'll enjoy this whiskey probably even more than you expect. And I guess the thing that I really like about this one is the balance. You'll have sweet, you'll have peat, sweet at the front, peat at the back of your tongue, salt at the side, and spice right in the middle. The whole of your palate is engaged with this whiskey. So I love the balance of this whiskey.
One of the fantasies for many Laphroaig drinkers is to be able to come and visit with you, John, at the distillery, be able to go into the warehouse, pull out one of these barrels like this. This is a fancy one, and pull the bung out of the bung hole. That's what that is, the bung there, and insert a copper dog and pull off a sample and drink it straight from the barrel. Well, this whiskey, this 10-year cask strength, is the closest thing that you're going to get to that fantasy of really being able to pull it right out of the cask there. And it's a beautiful whiskey. And don't be frightened of it. This is cask strength, just means tons of flavor on this. But if you do find it too strong, add water. But try it neat first. It'll surprise you.
No, absolutely. And what you'll find is you'll maybe have 2 or 3 of these whiskies. You'll fall asleep on your couch. You're waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning. You'll be a wee bit fuzzy. You'll think there's a wee bit of time travel involved, but it's all fine. It's all fine. So just see Joshua saying there, batch 7. If you like batch 7, Joshua, you're going to love batch 12. Absolutely going to love it. Because again, there's 3 batches I like the most out of all the Laphroaig cask strengths. That will be 4, 7, and 12. And it's just because of that balance.
John, you have a toast? Do you have a toast for us?
Yes. Yep. I can do a toast. So, here we go. I must go down to the sea today, the lowly sea in the sky, and all I ask is a Laphroaig cask strength and the friends to drink it dry. Slange.
Plunge.
And it's probably important to point out, and Mark, you can certainly share more in terms of what we have in stores, but we probably have 7 or so or 8 different varieties of Laphroaig in the stores in terms of the expressions, all the way up to a 32-year-old and a 28-year-old cask strength, so quite a few.
Yeah, that 32 year is very limited, but it really, the sherry casks in the 32 bring out a lot of the dark fruit notes, the chocolate, the nutty notes, and just because of the sherry influencing the sherry cask influencing the Laphroaig, it's going to cut the smoke. You're going to get just more of a whisper of peat on that.
Yep. No, and just see Joseph Foley saying there, say hello to James and Marion McGregor. So saw James yesterday. So I will absolutely pass that on. Thanks for that.
And James is one of your longest.
He is, 45 years and counting. Yep, James is amazing. James was the person, basically, when I started at Laphroaig, James took me under his wing and in his own unique way told me what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. And you know James, Simon, it's just a kind of no, yes, no, yep. So James is a man of few words, but you know exactly where he stands.
It's Islay simple, Islay simplicity, and that's one of the beauties of this whiskey, is that all it is barley, water, yeast, and a wee touch of magic.
Yes.
John, I think we've got a few more questions, and then probably we'll start to wrap it up. So here's let's do we'll do the questions first, and then we sing. All right. So what makes Laphroaig unique? There's a number of different answers to this one, and we'll certainly. This is a little bit more subjective.
Okay. James finds the winner for us. One of the questions, John, is how many people work at the Laphroaig distillery?
Just John and James too.
That's a good question. But there's actually 10 people that make the whiskey, believe it or not. There's 4 in the warehouse team. There's 4 in the maltings team. So that's 18. Me, assistant manager, Caroline, and an engineer. 22
Nice.
people.
And when the distillery is open again for visitors, the visitor center will add.
Yes, no, there'll be about 10 or 12 in the VC team as well. So yeah, but in the production team, there's 22.
Thank you. Our winner is Karen McBride. She got at least one of the answers, if not a couple.
So yeah, what does make Laphroaig unique? The size and shape of the stills that John was talking about, the copper pot stills, the angle of the line arms, the cold smoke peat fire that we use, as well as the location, the distillery on where the location is one of the key influences on how Laphroaig is made, because it is made where it is made.
Okay. Just 3 more questions. You want to take care of those now, Simon, so people can win their glasses? And
yeah, let's do it.
I think John's almost ready to go to bed, I think, over in Scotland.
I'm just about ready to get going.
Okay.
So what's the name of the cork used to seal casks? What's the name of the cork used to seal casks? This should be an easy one.
Okay, so Jeff Kantorowski is our winner for that.
Jeff Kantorowski is getting a Glencairn glass because he knew the answer was bung. It's the bung. And these days it's usually mostly poplar, the type of wood that's used for the bung, because the way it expands and contracts. All right. Name two flavors that contributed by Oloroso sherry casks in Laphroaig Select. So name two flavors contributed by Oloroso sherry casks in Laphroaig Select.
Oh, this is a tougher one. We're getting a lot of different answers. Some vanilla, some caramel, some coconut.
Vanilla, caramel, coconut. Those are more American white oak and the bourbon barrels. So
go the other way.
They're thinking. They're still working on it. James is going to find us a winner here.
Pepper.
Think grape.
We have a lot of one-word winners. I think we might end up pulling one of the one words. Oh, James has a winner.
Excellent.
Let's see who it is. So what were the 4 words they could select from?
Well, we were looking for dark fruit notes. We were looking for chocolate, cocoa, nutty notes, and a whisper of peat, not a heavy peat note, because that's the influence of the sherry casks.
So Michael Nugan guessed it with some of the sweetness in the dark fruit. And
Yep.
then so we have a winner right there.
Excellent.
All right.
I was Googling it and it's correct.
You're Googling just slower than everybody else is Googling, John.
Yeah, I'm just checking, Simon.
Well, I think, Sean, I think that's all of the questions, I
I
believe.
think so. And just somebody just asked what the prize was, so I just want to show it again. So this is the Laphroaig Glencairn glass, and so that we have a set of 6 of these for each of the winners. So we will send out the sets of 6 of these after the holiday.
Right. So now we raise a glass and sing again. Are we ready?
Yes.
So here we go. And so you know the melody to this one. The last 3 lines are a little tricky, so I'll take you through it so you can sing it correctly. We love Laphroaig when it's in our glass. If you don't like it, well, kiss my association with you. Laphroaig's the booze we choose. Got it? Okay, here we go. Ready? You ready, John? You got it?
Yes. Yep.
Come from the cold and frozen north.
north for booze. Laphroaig's the whiskey that we want. We choose. We love Laphroaig when it's in the glass. If you don't like it,
well,
kiss
kiss my
my
association with you. Laphroaig's the booze we choose. Did we get any better? The whiskey helps, I'm sure.
Whiskey definitely helps my hearing. Absolutely.
Excellent.
We're in 4th whiskey now, so we must be good.
Friends of Laphroaig, and we're starting to wrap up here. I realize just time-wise, we've gone over a wee bit, and we appreciate everybody staying on and enjoying the whiskeys. Take the time to enjoy the whiskey. Don't rush it.
If you've got 3 foot of snow outside, what else are you going to do, Simon?
Good point. Yeah.
Let's drink whiskey. Yep.
So this is, and you can GPS it to know exactly where your square foot of land is on Islay. And we invited a number of friends to come a number of years ago now for a gathering, and 300 people showed up. 10% of the population of Islay showed up. And if we've got a pair of boots and a flag and a glass, we all marched out to the field, raised a glass in their spots, and then we spell out FOL for Friends of Laphroaig people. The old group was a little rowdy for a while, looked like FUL, which is the wrong message, but we finally got them all in line. There was a gentleman from the Pacific Northwest who was a lifelong friend of Laphroaig, who had passed away the year prior, and one of his wishes were that his ashes be spread on his plot. So John and I carried his ashes over from the US, and John and we spread his ashes and raised a glass to his spirit. To me, that speaks to the passion that people have for this whiskey, that they will travel the world and beyond for a dram of the finest. So we don't call it Pete anymore, we call it Larry.
Very good. Nicely done. Well, I have to Thank you, Simon and John. It's been a heck of a night. You guys are always entertaining and educational, which is why a lot of our people tune in. So we appreciate that. And Mark, I think, is going to share with us a few last minute thoughts as well in terms of your shopping. So if you are getting to venture out to someone's house for the holiday, or if you're just going to be sneaking something back home for yourself and the husband or wife, then Mark might have a couple last minute suggestions to hit our stores. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I just want to start out by thanking Simon and John for joining us tonight. We're about halfway through our 90 days program. This is going to be my final spirits event for this 90 days program. So I'll be leaving you off with our very capable wine buyers. Lisa Gosling and Chad Gibson will be taking over for the next 6 weeks or so. But I was talking before the beginning of this show that Simon and I met each other about 25 years ago when shortly after I first started with the commission. So it's been a great run, and I certainly consider myself a friend of Laphoraig. And John, it's been a pleasure to meet you tonight, and thank you again for taking the time to join us. We've talked about this 90-day program. Like Sean said, we hope you guys are prepping for the holidays. Of course, things are a little bit different this year with COVID and everything going on. I'm humbled to say thank you to everybody that's joined us on Zoom and on Facebook for this 90-day program. So we didn't know what to expect. I've been blown away personally by all the people that have attended and all the great questions and comments. It's clear to see we have very intelligent consumers and friends and people that really take a passion to our spirits, and we really appreciate that. We couldn't do the things that we do, and I certainly couldn't do the things that I do without our business partners like Matthew Bissett from Beam Suntory, our local representative, and also our local brokers from Southern Glaciers Wine and Spirits, Bob Knight, Mark Valley, and those guys. I mean, I can bring these products into the state, but it's you guys that go into our stores, talk to our store staff, ask them questions. They're very knowledgeable, like Simon said. Our store personnel really take a passion in what they do and learn about the products and really want to help you pick out that perfect gift, whether it's for yourself or for a friend or for a family member. Go into our stores. Don't be afraid to shop around and like Simon said, pick up the bottles, look at it, look for somebody with a logoed shirt on, call them out and ask them some questions. They'd be happy to help you out. I mean, we got some great products out there over the last 6 weeks. We've had some great guys on like Simon and John. We've had, Crystal Head vodka with Dan Aykroyd was on. We learned about Bozal, Mezcal, which is a new growing category up here in New England. So if you want to get away from some of the tequilas that you're used to and get into the smokiness of Mezcal, we've had, Woodford. We've had the master distiller from Woodford on here. We had E.T. from Jack Daniels the other night talking to us about the Jack Daniels Sinatra. Perfect gift. I'd love to get one of those under my tree. We've had Casa Noble Herradura tequilas, certainly some high-end great sipping tequilas. We've had the great Fun Crew from Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, one of the fastest growing products in the country right now. You can make some great cocktails with that. Certainly, we always have our great lineup of holiday cordials, your Baileys and Kahlúas and Frangelicos that go great in any of your dessert recipes, and also some dessert cocktails. And, last but not least, if you're not sure what to get somebody, they like Scotch, but you're not sure if they like that peaty or if they like the lighter style, we have our New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlet gift cards. That way they can go in and choose what they want and enjoy what they need. But certainly, again, feel free to go in there, talk to our staff. They've been working hard throughout this whole COVID situation. They're keeping our stores open. They're out there on the front lines, keeping everything clean and safe for you guys to go into our stores. So again, I wish you all happy holidays, whatever you celebrate for these holidays. And I appreciate you allowing me to come into your home for the past 7 weeks and allowing us to bring these great master distillers and brand ambassadors and all these people to educate us and keep us ready and ready to enjoy the holidays in a responsible fashion. And also thank you to Sean and his team at We Do for the technical support and again, allowing me to do the things that I do. I'm very humbled and thank you and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas, Mark. Thank you. And our stores are open tomorrow till 6 o'clock. And I know I'll be out there trying to check out the Laphroaig Select because I haven't had that yet. So that'll be my Christmas gift. Simon and John, thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you live at the Highland Games competing, right? We want to see you competing up there. So
Fingers crossed. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much.
Longeva. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yep. Happy holidays, everyone.
All right.
Yep.
Cheers
Happy holidays.
across the sea.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.